Hello friends, in this new episode of For the Love of Food podcast, I have Bert, the founder of California Burrito. Let's deep dive into the story of Bert, of how he moved from America to India to start the most successful Mexican food brand here. Listen in. Hey Bert, good to be speaking to you. Very excited to talk to you about the California Burrito's journey and how all of this happened in the last many years.
Absolutely, great to be here.
Great. So, Bert, let me just directly dive into the first question. An American living in India, building a business. How did this happen? How tough was it? What was the journey like?
So I traveled to India for the first time in 2010,
Wow.
and I had an absolutely phenomenal experience studying here, and decided I want to come back and be a part of the Indian growth story and be a part of food here. So, I think at the beginning when we first moved here, we were like fish out of water. We were wearing suits to business meetings and just kind of totally unaware of how the culture worked.
Yeah.
And then over probably the first 2 years, we started to understand how things worked here.
So did you move in 2010 itself? Or?
So I moved in the end of 2011, December 2011, and have been here ever since. So almost 12 and a half years now.
And when did you start building the business?
We opened our first store in October of 2012.
Yeah.
And that did quite well at the beginning and has continued to survive. It's still there. And then we opened our second store about 8 months later.
Yeah.
And then have grown, I would say, in a measured fashion. We're currently at 72 stores.
Wow.
And across 4 cities, so Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, and NCR.
Brilliant. And what was the driver? Like, you came in as a student, as a tourist. Like, what made you stay back?
So I came in as a student here and kind of really had a very positive experience and felt the energy here. And I was already working in food in the US. I had in fact been working in a company called Moe's, Moe's Southwest Grill, and just felt that it was the right thing to do in my young years of starting a company here. I felt the learning I had in India, which is so different than the US, was going to be much bigger and much more of an opportunity in my life than if I just stayed back in the US and did whatever traditional journey a person would do.
And how did you choose the category? Mexican food in India was a rarity then. In fact, I would say outside of California Burrito, I can't even think of a second brand which is like even half as scaled up as that. How did this cuisine happen?
I love Mexican food. So in the US even, my favorite food was Mexican food and Indian food. Which was part of the reason actually I came to India in the first place. There was already a very positive association that I had had. So I love the food, and when I was studying in India, someone in our program, our study abroad program, was cooking Mexican food for some of the families. We were living with families there, so they were cooking Mexican food, and people loved it. And then that was kind of a realization to me that no one had seemed to do this format. I love this restaurant format. It's not it's not 100% authentic Mexican food. It's California Mexican, but that maybe there was an opportunity to bring this to India. So, and then also when I went back to the U.S., I kept seeing Indians in these restaurants. And I thought, okay, maybe this is an interesting opportunity.
There is some association between Indian and Mexican food, I would say. But typically when young entrepreneurs start out, they look for a proven category. They would want to be a number 2, number 3 in a larger category. Creating a new category, educating the customer is tough. So how did you go about building the Mexican food brand, not the California Burrito brand, but what Mexican food is? Until then, Indians must have only had some nachos. I would say, like, how did this whole journey, what was the education cycle like?
So, when we first started, I was 22. I'd never had a corporate job. And so I had not even thought in these terms of a category and being a first mover and all these things. So I had no idea about that. But I think somewhere we felt that if we were able to deliver a much fresher and wholesome and valuable fast food experience, that would do well. And so I think when we started out, I would not say the food was 100% authentic. Maybe our initial years it was a little bit veering into an Indian place in terms of trying to match the food preferences. But gradually we've come into, I think, a much more a taste that you would get in California. Now, in terms of educating customers, what we did is we felt malls or tech parks was the best place to kind of meet consumers who had already been to the U.S. and tried this cuisine.
Interesting.
So the Tech Park was the first place we went, and we were right opposite to Goldman Sachs. And so many Goldman Sachs people were coming back and forth, and so they knew our cuisine, and they became regulars. And so gradually over time, word of mouth, I think, built the the awareness of the product, but generally our real estate was driven by being close to people who'd already been abroad.
Yeah. And California Burrito food stands for sustainability and very close to what a good health food product should be like. How did you imbibe these values? Was it tougher to, build your brand in that direction as opposed to just not caring about these values?
So I think my mom has been a health food fanatic, and when I was growing up, I never even ate once at a McDonald's.
Oh wow!
So she wouldn't let us have fast food, and said it was preservatives and
Which
bad.
Which part of America did you grow up?
I grew up in Maryland actually,
okay,
and my mom is a nutritionist for the Navy SEALs.
Wow!
So she's very into nutrition and very against fast food, and we used to only have organic food. So I grew up with kind of the notion that there is being in a more wholesome direction is a good thing. Now, I think that for us, maybe some of sustainability was a challenge at the beginning, but as I think the market has grown, as the business keeps growing, it becomes easier to take small steps in that direction. Yes. And I think a book I'd read was From Dirt to Soil, which is by Gabe Brown. It's a book on regenerative farming. And I got interested in that. I've always been interested in agriculture. And once I read that book, I realized that this was something we could actually do since we were embarking on this journey of growing some of the vegetables from Mexico. So we started with Hass avocados, we brought in tomatillos, and doing some chili de árbol, black beans, pinto beans, and now corn is our latest project. But we've been able to work with farmers who practice this, and so that's something we like about. We don't go out and shout about it too much, but it's something that we gradually make small steps towards improving on.
Got it. And now, what percentage of your produce are you farming yourself?
So it's really the things that are I would say a key to the product taste right now. So lettuce is one we're kind of now starting with, but that has not really been. I wouldn't say it's not a huge amount of our vegetables, because if you think of vegetables, it's really going to be potato, tomato, peppers, onion, and capsicum, and those are not things we've gotten into. But all the salsa is grown by us. And the beans are now coming out, grown by us.
Nice.
And so I think it's sort of a slow journey where eventually maybe it's 30-40%.
Got it. And how difficult was it for you to adapt to India? Take us through your personal journey. That's one is the brand's journey, but how were your last 10 years like?
Well, I think after the first 2 years, actually I became rather accustomed.
Yeah.
And so now I think it's.
You were in Bangalore all this while?
I was in Bangalore the entire time. But once you get accustomed and you understand how things work in India, I'm a very flexible, adaptable person.
Nice.
And I think India is a very welcoming place.
It is,
because it's a very diverse place, and so people are kind of try to get along.
Especially Bangalore is almost like a melting pot of all cultures.
Absolutely, for sure. Which is one of the reasons we chose to be here in the first place. But I think my journey's been incredibly positive. I think India just always excites me with new things every day, and I think some of my favorite memories would be participating in some of the holidays. So recently I was in Jaipur for Makar Sankranti.
Oh wow, the
kites and the fire in the air, which was phenomenal. But I've had, just many great memories of celebrating festivals here.
Right, and take us through the pandemic period. It was very tough on a lot of F&B brands, and it was a very uncertain period. How did you guys navigate it? And what I believe is that I think your brand got catapulted to a next orbit post-pandemic. So what was the journey like?
I think if we look at pre-pandemic, we had always been focused on doing business parks.
Yeah.
And which was maybe lazy in a way. It didn't push us to do new things as aggressively as we could have.
Yes.
The pandemic made us rethink every decision that we've made, in particular our business park strategy.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden business parks were dead. They're totally dead real estate.
Yes.
So by being pushed to rethink every aspect of the business, I think we made some improvements in our business.
Yeah.
And clearly the whole market shifted into delivery, which was beneficial for us, because I think our rice bowls and our burritos deliver pretty well.
Very.
Including
the burritos, do you think burritos are delivered well?
They're delivered decently. I'm not going to say the rice bowl is better for sure.
Rice bowl is a very delivery friendly category. Yes.
So I think just by kind of rethinking everything, it made us get better at things.
Yes.
And I have to say, we had a great core team in place that stuck with us through the pandemic.
Brilliant.
And so I think sticking together, sticking out the hard times, working together, breaking your heads to figure out how this thing works, and then you come out successful and you feel fantastic about it.
And 74 stores now in 4 cities. What are your expansion plans looking like? any new categories, new cities, etc.?
So, right now we're focused on opening about 2 stores a month.
Nice.
And our target is to get to 100 by March.
Brilliant.
And post that, we'll evaluate if we want to do another city or not. I think there's ample scope in the 4 cities we're in.
Yes.
I mean, maybe even...
That's the good thing about India. There's very great depth in every market.
For sure, and it keeps growing.
Yes. Yeah, in India, the larger cities are growing faster than the population of the larger cities keeps growing, and the cities keep growing.
Exactly.
The size keeps growing.
So I think our view is not to get spread too far. We'd love to be in Mumbai. I think we will be in Mumbai, but I can't say exactly when.
Yeah, it's also not a very easy city to get into from a real estate
That is also what I've heard.
Yes,
so we have some targets in our mind in terms of sales per store and dine-in, and once that is achieved, we feel we can achieve the expectations of the landlords in Mumbai.
And what is your supply chain structure like? Is there a central unit which supplies to the store? Like, what is the structure like?
So, a huge amount of preparation is done at the store.
Okay.
We don't have a central kitchen.
Interesting.
We do have a warehouse that does, case in, pack out, distribution of packaging, etc. But we don't produce at the warehouse. So for things like salsa and some of the, I think 2 of the proteins in them, they are produced by a third-party vendor.
Yes.
But the rest, and like barbecue sauce is made by a third-party vendor. But the rest of the food is cooked at the store, which is a challenge. It's a benefit, and it's also a challenge because the benefit is you get really fresh food. The challenge is consistency.
Absolutely. And from your personal point of view, are you a foodie? Like, do you love to eat food, good food? What's your?
Yeah, I love food. And in particular, Indian food I love. So I'm in the right place for that.
Yeah. So do you travel for food? What are the interesting cities in India that you've traveled for food?
So once I went to Dindigul actually, and had I had Dindigul talapakati way before. In 2013, I had there.
Wow.
So they used to have this beautiful egg that they fried, and it was a fantastic biryani. So I'd gone to Dindigul for that.
Kaliki? I think. Is it called Kaliki?
I don't remember the exact name, but I'd been there. Actually, I went back in 2016. I had it again at the restaurant. We had an avocado event there in Dindigul. Otherwise, I'm thinking, where else have I traveled? I just love Hyderabad food. I think Andhra food has always been closest to my heart.
Yeah. The biryani or just the meals?
Both. So biryani is the number one, but then I love the spicy, the Guntur chilies and all the gravies that they have and the...
And with over 10 years in India, are you a cricket buff? Watching any cricket at all?
Surprisingly not.
Wow, that's one thing you've stayed away from. Have you been into any Indian movies? Have you watched any Indian movies?
So a little bit. I did. Let's see. What was the last one I saw in the theaters? Can't remember. I think Rocky or Ronnie, I think I saw.
Oh, wow, okay.
But I can't remember another one. Oh, no, I saw the latest Abhishek Ambarish movie.
Oh, wow, you did?
Yeah, so I went and saw that. So I was a fan of Ambarish.
Yeah.
And so now his son has become kind of the young rebel star. I went and I saw that movie. I was a fan of Ambarish in Karnataka cinema, actually, when I first came here. I think kind of to imbibe the culture, understand what was happening.
What about, and do you speak any local languages? Kannada?
Little
Hindi?
Kannada, Solpa Kannada.
Brilliant. And so, how's your team structured? Is it like a central team and you have regional teams? What's your structure of the team like?
So we don't have a huge team. We have warehouses in each city. We have domain heads for each domain, which is in Bangalore. Our biggest team is our finance team, followed by probably marketing, supply chain, and projects.
Brilliant.
And I think nimble. We try to keep it lean and nimble.
And you've got a pretty strong design sense, like the stores are very, very well designed. Are you the inspiration?
Or? No, I would say it's a team effort. Yeah. I would say I probably spent a little too much time on store design, which we're trying to hire an interior designer.
Yeah. Brilliant.
But I think, I'm actually from a music background.
Oh, wow.
And I was a music major in college. I was interested in film composition. So for me, the creative aspect of food and just bringing things together is very exciting.
Brilliant.
So I love that.
Great. So thanks for taking our time, Bert. It's been an amazing conversation. I'm very, very sure that California Burrito will be one of the largest QSR brands in the country, especially because the cuisine is very close to the Indian cuisine. Thanks for your time and all the best.
Well, thanks, Ankit. I have a huge respect for what you guys are building as well, and it's great to speak with you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.